Lucy Thompson, 12 years old, daughter of a family in financial difficulty, finds a latest generation phone dropped from the bag of an elegant woman. Instead of keeping it, she runs after the stranger to return it. "Is this yours?" she asks timidly. The woman turns around. It's Victoria Sterling, heiress worth 600 million, one of Britain's richest people. What happens next will forever change both their lives. Because what Lucy doesn't know is that this phone contains a secret worth more than any fortune. And the reward she'll receive for her honesty will reveal a truth that even Victoria didn't know about her own family. London, Bond Street, 3:30 p.m. on 22nd November 2024. Lucy Thompson walked slowly along Britain's most luxurious street, eyes wide in front of the glittering shop windows that seemed to belong to another world. At 12 years old, she had already learned that there were two parallel universes. The one she lived in, made of unpaid bills and skipped dinners, and that of the rich, which she crossed every day to go to school. Her mother Anne worked as a cleaner in 3 different offices, whilst her father Mark had lost his job at the factory 6 months earlier. The family lived in a small flat on a council estate, counting every penny to make it to the end of the month. But Lucy had a quality rare for her age, a sense of justice so pure it seemed unnatural in a world of compromises. That afternoon, she was coming home from school with her patched-up rucksack when she saw an elegant woman coming out of a luxury boutique. She must have been about 40, dressed in a camel-colored coat that probably cost more than her mother's annual salary. She was carrying designer bags in both hands and talking on the phone in an authoritative tone, clearly used to being obeyed. The woman, totally absorbed in her phone conversation, didn't notice that a brand-new iPhone had slipped from her bag. The device fell onto the pavement with a dull thud and lay there, ignored by passers-by who walked quickly without bothering to look. Lucy stopped dead. The phone was beautiful, latest model, probably worth more than what her family spent in 2 months. For a moment, a little voice in her head whispered that no one had seen her, that she could simply pick it up and walk away. With such a phone, she could help her parents, sell it, and give the money to the household. But Lucy looked at the woman walking away obliviously and heard that familiar voice of conscience that her grandmother had taught her to always listen to. "Lucy," Grandma Teresa always told her, "poverty is not an excuse for being dishonest. On the contrary, it's precisely when you have little that you must prove you're worth a lot." Without hesitation, Lucy picked up the phone and ran after the elegant woman, her heart beating fast from the run and from the emotion of what she was doing. "Excuse me, madam," Lucy shouted, catching up with her after a 50-meter sprint. The woman turned around annoyed, seeing this scruffy-looking child chasing her with a phone in hand. For a moment, her eyes hardened, probably thinking of an attempted mugging or scam. "Is this yours?" Lucy asked in a timid but determined voice, holding the phone out to the stranger. The woman looked at the device, then at the child, then back at the device. Her expression gradually changed from suspicion to surprise, then transformed into something Lucy couldn't decipher. "My God," the woman whispered, taking the phone with slightly trembling hands. "I hadn't even noticed. You found it and brought it back to me?" Lucy simply nodded, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "It had fallen from your bag. I thought it must be important." The woman stared at her with an intensity that made Lucy uncomfortable. "What's your name?" "Lucy Thompson, ma'am." "I'm Victoria Sterling." The name meant nothing to Lucy, but Victoria was one of Britain's richest heiresses, owner of a chain of luxury hotels and property investments worth £600 million. But what neither Lucy nor Victoria knew was that this phone contained a message that would change everything. A message that revealed a secret kept for 12 years. a secret that concerned Lucy herself. Victoria looked at Lucy with an expression the child couldn't interpret. There was surprise, certainly, but also something else. A sort of recognition, as if she were seeing something familiar in an unknown face. "Lucy Thompson," Victoria repeated slowly, as if savoring every syllable. "How old are you?" 12, ma'am." "And your parents? What are their names?" Lucy felt uncomfortable with all these questions, but answered politely, "Mum's called Anne, Dad's Mark. They've lived here in London all their lives." Victoria visibly paled. She took the phone that Lucy had returned to her and looked at it as if it were a magical object. That very morning she had received a message that had been tormenting her for hours, a message from a private investigator she had hired for a search that had been going on for years. "Mrs. Sterling," the investigator had written, "I've finally found information about the child you were looking for. Lucy Thompson, 12 years old, lives at 45 Tower Hamlets Road with her parents, Anne and Mark Thompson. All requested documents attached." Victoria had read that message 5 times before going out shopping, intending to process this devastating news. The child she had been searching for 12 years had finally been found. And now that same child was returning her phone with a purity of heart that broke her soul. "Lucy," Victoria said with a trembling voice, "I need to ask you something very important. Do you know you were adopted?" Lucy looked at her confused. "Adopted?" "No, ma'am. Mum and Dad are my real parents." Victoria felt the world spinning around her. 12 years earlier, she had made the most difficult decision of her life, giving up her newborn daughter for adoption. She was only 28, wasn't married, and her family had put terrible pressure on her not to ruin the reputation of the Sterling name. They had convinced her that the child would be better off with a normal family, that she wasn't ready to be a mother. For 12 years, she had regretted that decision every single day. She had hired investigators to search for her daughter, but the adoption had been handled privately and discreetly. Until that morning, when she had finally received the address and name of the child she had been looking for so long. And now Lucy was there in front of her, returning her phone with the same kindness and honesty that Victoria hoped she had passed on in her DNA. "Lucy," Victoria said, trying to control the emotion in her voice, "I'd like to do something to thank you. What you've done is very special." "It's not necessary, ma'am. It was just right," Lucy replied with simplicity. "Yes, it is necessary." Victoria took her handbag and pulled out a business card. "I want you to come and see me tomorrow afternoon, together with your parents. I have a proposal for you." Lucy looked at the elegant card with the name Victoria Sterling, Chairman Sterling Group, and wondered what this rich lady wanted from her family. But something in Victoria's eyes told her it wasn't just a simple reward for returning a phone. "Ma'am," Lucy said shyly, "may I ask why it's so important? It's just a phone." Victoria smiled through the tears that were beginning to form. "No, dear Lucy, it's not just a phone. It's much, much more." The next day, Lucy presented herself at Victoria's office, together with her parents, Anne and Mark. The Sterling Group building in central London intimidated all 3 of them. Precious marble, golden lifts, elegant secretaries who looked at them with barely concealed curiosity. Anne nervously gripped her daughter's hand, wondering what this rich woman wanted from them. Mark had put on the only suit he owned, the one from his wedding, now a bit tight and worn. Both were terrified at the idea of having done something wrong. Victoria welcomed them into her panoramic office, but her behavior was strangely nervous for a woman used to commanding. She kept looking at Lucy with an intensity that made the parents uncomfortable. "I've called you here," Victoria began, Because your daughter did something extraordinary yesterday. She returned the phone I had lost, showing honesty that's rare nowadays. Mark and Anne smiled proudly at their child, but Victoria hadn't finished. But there's more, she continued, taking an envelope from a safe hidden behind a painting. Anne, Mark, I have to tell you something that will change everything. Lucy isn't just an honest child who helped me. She's my daughter. The silence that followed was deafening. Anne paled and instinctively pulled Lucy towards her. Mark jumped up from his chair. I don't understand, Anne stammered. Lucy is our daughter. We've always raised her. Victoria opened the envelope and took out legal documents, birth certificates, photos of Lucy as a newborn. 12 years ago, I gave Lucy up for adoption. I was young, unmarried, and my family pressured me not to ruin the family name's reputation. I chose you through a private agency because you seemed like a perfect couple who could give her all the love I wasn't ready to offer. Lucy looked amazed at the adults arguing about her identity without fully understanding what was happening. Mum, she said in a small voice, what does this mean? Anne burst into tears, hugging Lucy as if someone was about to take her away. It means this lady says she's your biological mum, darling. But you're our daughter. Nothing else matters. Victoria approached cautiously. Anne, Mark, I'm not here to take Lucy away from you. You are her real parents, the ones who raised her with love. I'm here because I realized I made the biggest mistake of my life by giving her away. Mark looked at the documents Victoria had shown. Everything matched. The dates, the adoption details, even a photo of newborn Lucy they had never seen. The truth was undeniable. What do you want from us? Mark asked with a tense voice. I want to repair the harm I've done, Victoria replied. Not just to Lucy, but to you too. I know you're going through financial difficulties. I know Anne works 3 jobs, and you, Mark, lost your position at the factory. Lucy looked up surprised. She didn't know her parents were struggling so badly financially. They had always done everything to hide their worries from her. I want to help you, Victoria continued. I want Lucy to have everything she deserves.
Enjoying the story? Give it a little like, and don't forget to subscribe. Now then, let's carry on.
But without separating her from you. I want us to become an extended family, if you'll allow me. Anne looked at her daughter, then Mark, then back at Victoria. And what does that mean practically? It means I want to sort out all your financial problems. New house, stable job for Mark, private education for Lucy. But most importantly, I want permission to be part of her life. Not as a mother, that's you, but as a rich aunt who wants to take care of the family. Lucy looked at all these adults deciding her future and finally spoke. Can I say something? Everyone turned to her. I don't understand all this talk about adoption and documents. I only know that Mum and Dad have always loved me, and that yesterday I did what seemed right. If this lady wants to help us, that's fine, but I don't want to change house or family. I just want Mum and Dad not to be worried anymore. Lucy's simple and pure words dissolved all the tensions. Victoria burst into tears, realizing her daughter had grown up exactly as she had hoped, honest, strong, and full of love. 2 months after that encounter that had changed everything, the Thompson family's life was completely transformed. Victoria had kept every promise, but had done everything with a delicacy that respected everyone's feelings. Mark had got a management position in one of the Sterling Group companies, with a salary that was 5 times what he earned at the factory. Anne had been able to leave 2 of her 3 jobs, dedicating herself only to the one she liked most. The family had moved to a beautiful flat in Kensington, but not too luxurious so as not to make Lucy feel out of place. But the most important change was in relationships. Victoria had asked to be able to see Lucy twice a week, and every meeting had become precious for both of them. She didn't behave like a mother, but like a special friend who wanted to know everything about her. "Tell me about school," Victoria would say during their afternoons together. "What are your favorite subjects? What do you want to do when you grow up?" Lucy had discovered she loved art and history. Victoria had enrolled her in the best private courses, but always asking Anne and Mark's permission first. Every decision was made together, like a real extended family. The most beautiful moment came when Lucy participated in a school painting competition and won first prize. At the prize giving, there were Anne, Mark, and Victoria, all three proud as if they were her real parents. And in a way, all three of them were. "Thank you," Lucy said to Victoria that evening, as they returned home after the ceremony. "Thank you for what?" "For allowing me to have 3 parents instead of 2, and for waiting until I was old enough to understand." Victoria hugged her, thinking how lucky she had been to give birth to such a special child, and how wonderful Anne and Mark had been in raising her. A year after their first meeting on Bond Street, Lucy had become a confident and happy teenager. She had 3 parents who loved her, a beautiful home, and all the opportunities she could wish for. But the most important thing was that she had never forgotten the lesson her grandmother Teresa had taught her. One day, whilst walking with Victoria through central London, they saw a familiar scene. An elegant man had dropped his wallet without noticing. A street youth was looking at it, clearly tempted to keep it. "Look," Lucy said to Victoria. "It's just like what happened to us." Without hesitation, Lucy approached the youth. "Hey," she said gently, "that belongs to the gentleman who just passed. If you take it back to him, maybe he'll thank you." The youth looked at her skeptically. "And why should I? He's rich, and I don't even have money to eat." "Because when you do the right things happen to you too," Lucy replied with the wisdom of someone who had lived that truth on her own skin. The youth hesitated, then took the wallet and ran after the man. When he caught up and returned it, the man was so grateful that he not only gave him a generous reward, but also offered him a job in his company. Victoria watched Lucy with admiration. "How do you always know what to say?" "Grandma Teresa taught me," Lucy replied. "She used to say that poverty isn't an excuse for being dishonest. And you proved it to me. When I did the right thing with you, I found a bigger family." That evening, Victoria called Anne and Mark to organize a special dinner. She wanted to tell everyone how proud she was of Lucy and how they had raised her. "Anne, Mark," she said during dinner, "I know initially you were afraid I wanted to take Lucy away from you, but the truth is, I could never have raised such a special child alone. You gave her everything I didn't know how to give her: values, honesty, humility. I only gave her financial opportunities, but she became extraordinary thanks to you." Anne and Mark smiled, finally convinced that Victoria wasn't a threat, but a gift that life had made to their family. 5 years after that chance encounter on Bond Street, Lucy had become an extraordinary 17-year-old girl. She had won scholarships to the best universities, spoke 4 languages, and had founded an association to help street children find work through small acts of honesty. The project had been born from the experience with the youth she had helped return the wallet. Lucy had convinced Victoria to finance a program that rewarded disadvantaged children every time they made honest gestures, returning found objects, telling the truth, helping others without self-interest. The Lucy Project, as it had been called, had become famous throughout Britain and had helped hundreds of children get off the streets and find a better future. During the project's awards ceremony, held in the most beautiful hall of Victoria's hotel, Anne, Mark, and, of course, Victoria herself were present. Lucy went up on stage to give the closing speech. 5 years ago, Lucy began, I found a phone in the street. I could have kept it. My family needed money. But my grandmother had taught me that the right thing to do is always right, regardless of the consequences. The audience listened in religious silence. What I didn't know is that by returning that phone, I would find not just a financial reward, but a bigger family. I discovered that my biological mum had been looking for me for years, and that Mum Anne and Dad Mark had been the perfect parents she had hoped for me. Lucy looked towards the table where her 3 parents sat, all with tears in their eyes. Today, thanks to the Lucy Project, we've helped 500 children understand that honesty isn't a weakness, but the greatest strength that exists. Because when you do good, good always comes back to you, often in ways you could never imagine. The audience exploded in thunderous applause. But for Lucy, the real prize was seeing Anne, Mark, and Victoria hugging each other, united by their love for her, and by the awareness of having created something beautiful together. That evening, as they returned home, the mansion Victoria had bought for the whole family, where they all lived together like one big extended family, Lucy thought back over the journey they had taken. "Do you know what I think?" she said to Victoria as they looked at London's lights from the terrace. "What, darling?" "I think you didn't abandon me 12 years ago. You just entrusted me to the right people to make me grow up in the right way, and then you waited for the perfect moment to come back into my life." Victoria hugged her tightly, thinking how wise that 12-year-old child had been to have the courage to do the right thing, and how lucky she was to have found her again through that gesture of pure honesty. "Fate works in strange ways," Victoria said. "It wasn't fate," Lucy replied, smiling. "It was Grandma Teresa watching me from heaven and telling me to return that phone." And as London sparkled below them, all 3 knew that sometimes the greatest rewards come when you least expect them, but only if you have the courage to always do the right thing. Has this story moved you? Has it made you believe in the power of honesty and the importance of always doing the right thing? If you too believe that every gesture of honesty can change the world, that real families are built with love and not just blood, and that doing good always brings good, like and share this video. Tell us in the comments, have you ever returned something valuable that you found? Do you believe honesty is always rewarded? Do you know stories of children who have shown wisdom beyond their years? Share your experiences and help us spread this message of hope. Because every story of honesty reminds us that the world can be better if each of us chooses to do the right thing. Subscribe for more stories that celebrate the triumph of values over convenience. Like, comment, share, and subscribe for stories that show that the smallest gestures can have the biggest consequences.